What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living in West Africa. I'm in Sierra Leone right now. And if you want to know why my card declined and why I'm having so many bank issues here in Sierra Leone, then this is the video for you. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know in the comments if you guys can hear me. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. We're live. So I'm going live on Instagram right now as we speak. And we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Send me a comment. Let me know if you guys can hear me. We're just now going live on YouTube, Instagram as well. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of time for people to get on so you can let me know if you can hear me. Today, we're talking about my bank issues. And man, are there many. I was having a lot of issues with my bank account. So we're gonna talk about that today and what recommendations I would make for you if you guys are coming here to Sierra Leone. All right, David said he can hear me on YouTube. Thanks, David, for letting me know. Cool. Can you guys hear me on Instagram? Let me know if you guys can hear me on Instagram Live. What's up, guys? What's up? All these people are joining. Let me know if you guys can hear me on Instagram. Can you guys hear me on Instagram? Let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me on Instagram. And okay, cool. What is it? Chaka Late Patty says you can hear me. All right, cool. Is it Yofaya? Is it Yofaya? Yofaya? Tell me if that's how you pronounce your name. But what's up? What's up, guys? All right, cool. So let's give it a little bit of time. Okay, you can definitely hear me. Cool. Let me start by just doing some introductions. I see some new people on Instagram Live. And okay, and so I'm being told my stream is buffering though on YouTube Live. So let me do a quick check. I'm on live. I'm online on the best possible network I have here. So if it's still buffering, I apologize, guys. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the internet here. So I'll do my best to try to keep it clear, and I'll make sure that I'm not live on any other devices. Maybe I'll disconnect some of my other devices, put them on flight mode for now. So maybe that'll stop the interference. Put some of these other ones on flight mode. All right, cool. So we'll do that. Okay, cool. All right, thanks for joining, guys. What's up? You guys can hear me? Good. By the way, if anybody wants to go live with me today, I'm definitely down to go live today. What's up, Miss Shonda? Yeah, so I'll go live with everyone. Okay, so so let's get some housekeeping out of the way. So first of all, those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I go by Joe. A lot of people call me Joe. You can call me Joannis as well. This channel on YouTube is really about my move from the United States to West Africa. I moved to, I'm building a house in Sierra Leone, and I do live as a permanent resident in Ghana, or at least a current resident in Ghana. Not a permanent resident, but I'm a resident in Ghana. So that means I have dual citizenship between Sierra Leone and the US, and then I'm a resident in Ghana. So I go back and forth between Ghana and Sierra Leone as I'm working to build this property in Sierra Leone, 3-story house that I'm looking to build. But I also live in Ghana and work in Ghana. I work at a company called Jumia. It is the Amazon of Africa, as they call themselves. And I'm the head of advertising for Jumia Ghana, which means that I'm responsible for any brands that want to run ads on Jumia in Ghana. I am responsible for helping them do that. So, so that is who I am. My Instagram page is a little bit more broad about what's happening in the diaspora and in Africa. My YouTube channel is really more about me. It's not really talking too much about the news of the day. I do plan, though, at some point to start to react to the news of the day and start giving my thoughts on it. Much like you might see on other channels about news that's happening in the diaspora, except I want to do it based on news that affects our community and our culture. All right, cool. So let's give another little couple of minutes for a few more people to join so we can talk about this card situation. Man, it has been a wild ride trying to figure this out. Very embarrassing when your card does not work when you're out somewhere and you need to even borrow money. I was at an event and I had to borrow money because I could not use my card. And I'm going to explain to you guys what happened, but it's a really embarrassing thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an embarrassing situation to be in. And I've been in this situation before when I hadn't had funds in my account. This happened to me during the financial crisis back in 2010. But it hasn't happened really since. So the fact that it happened was really embarrassing. I mean, can you imagine you're out with people and you're trying to buy like $17 worth of food and your card declines and you have to borrow $17 because you don't have it? Well, that's what happened. It wasn't that I didn't have it, is that I couldn't access it. And we'll talk about that in a second, like how that happened. It also was embarrassing because I was out the weekend before and the same thing happened and I had to borrow money from people then too. So a lot of lessons were learned in this last week, and I'm going to tell you all about it on today's live. Really embarrassing, like super embarrassing. So let's get right into it. People are starting to join now, so we can talk about it a little bit. But before we do, let's like get the housekeeping out of the way because that's what I meant to do. So for those of you who don't know, I usually do 3 videos a week. I haven't done it since the beginning of December. And so as of next week, I'm going back to at least 2 videos a week, and then we will start moving back into 3 videos a week. So you guys can start to expect to see 2 and 3 videos a week from me in the coming months moving forward. I'll be doing more lives too. I've been talking to a few people about doing more lives. I'm moving into the podcast game, so I'll be doing podcasts as well. So there'll be all types of ways that you can get content from this channel to know what's going on the continent and to know what's going on in my life as a person who's moved here. I'm doing more interviews with different people who've made the move and with founders of different companies, so you guys can hear about businesses here. And like I said, I'm going to start doing more reaction videos to the different news of the day and things that are going on, and even things that aren't news, but like different things that I've learned. I noticed that you guys find it really valuable on Instagram to get like all this historical content, right? What's happening, what's happened in the history of Africa, what's happened in the history of the United States to people of color or to Black people or African descendants in general. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff that I want to do reaction videos to on YouTube as well, to offer some of that same insight and information, and then my own viewpoint on some of these things. I'm looking to do as well. So you guys can expect to start seeing that on YouTube too. So a question before we get into the content. This is a good question. So Shaka Late Patty is asking, why am I building in Sierra Leone as opposed to Ghana? So I am Sierra Leonean American. So both my parents were born and raised in Sierra Leone. I was conceived in the United States, but I'm Sierra Leonean. And so, what's up, Cali Calv? And so because of that, this is really home for me where I am in Sierra Leone. And so I'm building a house here. One, because I wanted to build here. It's a little bit cheaper. I know the terrain a little bit better. I know what's going on. And before I even decided to move, chocolate patty, not chocolate patty, chocolate patty. Got it. Got you. So before I even decided to move to Africa, I was already deciding that I wanted to build a house in Sierra Leone. Now that I live in West Africa and I live in Ghana and I'm back and forth between Sierra Leone and Ghana, I will be buying and building in Ghana as well. but that is kind of a later stage project. That's not something that's going to be happening right away. But I will be building a house and maybe buying a house in Ghana. I'm still deciding what works best for me and my budget, depending over what's happening over the next couple of years. But first, I want to establish and build in Sierra Leone. And then also, my mother is retiring at the end of this year, and she needs a home to move back to. And so we're building a house for her to retire to here in Sierra Leone. All right, cool. So drinking a little tea because I do not want to get sick again. After having COVID at the end of last year, I'm trying to do everything I can to keep away any viruses. All right, cool. So yeah, so that's the reason why I'm not building in Ghana. I'm building in Sierra Leone right now, but soon come. I'll be doing something in Ghana as well, and maybe even potentially Nigeria. I've been talking to some people about making a trip out there sometime in the next 6 months, and I want to start getting an idea of what life might be like there and the potential to move there. So there's a potential. It could happen. I'm still working on it. All right, so we got some questions coming in. Before we get into the content, we got some more questions. Okay, Kali Kav says, okay, it's good that you've been in the house. I was getting ready to ask where you're about to build an African institution. Hold on, okay, sorry. It's okay, that's good. You've been in the house. I was getting ready to ask if you were about to build an African institution that's owned by you and that's going to have nothing but Africans partake in it. Yes, I'm building a house, not an institution. But yeah, I mean, everything I do here specifically focuses on Africa and Africans. Even the businesses that I advise are all Africans, African owned or African run. Yeah, and by African born people. Even Founders Institute, you know, one of the things we've looked at is focusing on African founders specifically. So yeah, that's definitely what my goal is. That's all I'm focused on. But in terms of where I'm building, of course, all the people that I'm employing are African. You know, I don't know if you guys know, but I have a social media manager who's Nigerian. She's actually in England right now, but she was in Nigeria when I brought her on board. I have staff, like I have a caretaker in Ghana. I have a housekeeper. I have a caretaker here in Sierra Leone. I have another guy who does a lot of my my admin stuff for the different businesses that I have and things like that. And so I employ, or I at least financially take care of from time to time Africans, and specifically Africans. My goal is to continue to build and do what I can here. So even a lot of what I do in terms of like the bringing in funds and things like that, like that's all my focus is on Africans and people here. Okay, so only one says, hello everyone, what's up? What's up? Shout out to you. Okay, so let's get into this whole bank situation. So some of you guys might know I have a bank account in the United States. I really only have one. Well, I have more than one, but one that I had been utilizing to extract funds from. That account, the debit card expired earlier this year, and I let it expire because I was like, I'm not even using that card. Doesn't matter. I'll let those funds just sit in the account, let it grow in that account. I don't even need to worry about it because I have these other accounts here. So that card, I wasn't using that here, right? That card is just expired. So then I have a UBA bank account from Ghana, and I have an Echo Bank account here in Sierra Leone. And so my UBA bank card, I'm having issues with it, and I've gone back and forth, and they're fixing it or whatever. But the issue was, when you leave the country, you need to let them know exactly how long you're leaving, and they need to make it available to you for use while you're gone for that period of time. But I stayed about a month longer than I initially anticipated staying. Not a month longer, but like 3 weeks longer than I initially anticipated. And so that card stopped working. But I was like, that doesn't matter because I have my local account here in Sierra Leone. There are funds in that account, so I can use that. Well, no, I can't use that card because that card also had some issues. So last week I was at an event, and It was an event where we were playing. Sierra Leone was playing in the Africa Cup of Nations, or AFCON, right? And we're playing our third and final match. Unfortunately, we actually lost. But to add insult to injury, to go pay for my meal, I go to use my card, and it just goes declined, transaction declined, right? I was like, oh, okay, that's embarrassing because there are people around. Like, let's just use this card. Declined, transaction declined. And I was like, maybe a stroke of luck, the card from the account that I have in the US will work. No, because it was expired. So I had to ask people, does anybody have 170,000 to let me borrow so that I can make this transaction? Which is kind of embarrassing because there were some people there who don't know me, some people there who do know me. And somebody had to allow me loan me the 170,000 leones, which is basically $17. So why am I bringing this up, and why am I explaining this to you all, and why is this important? For a couple of different reasons. In Sierra Leone, most things happen based on cash, right? Most transactions are cash transactions, and you need to have cash on you. I should have been prepared with cash. You should never leave your house without cash here, because you can be stranded. There are a lot of places that don't work on credit. The POS machines might be down. So the same thing happened at the club. We go to the club. I go to pay for my drink and my glass of wine, and I try to use the card, and the POS machines aren't working. And so they tell me, so you have two choices. You can leave your car keys, or you can leave a phone. But you can't leave until you do that. So I was like, well, I mean, I'm not leaving a phone here, so that's not happening. And so we're going back and forth. I'm going back and forth with management. They're like, well, you can't leave. We'll call the police then. We either call the police, or you give us a phone or your keys until you can come back with payment. So I say all that to say, make sure you have cash when you come here to Sierra Leone, in particular, if you're coming to Sierra Leone at all. And really what it comes down to is making sure you have a card that works so that you can get out the cash. So what happens was, I was on the phone all day Friday with my account manager, actually with the branch manager who put me in touch with someone else. I was on the phone with them all day, going back and forth. They were emailing the central team, emailing me, going back and forth with the team in Ghana, with me. And in the end, I didn't have access to my cash on Friday, didn't have access to my cash on Saturday, didn't have access to my cash on Sunday. And this morning, I finally was able to go to the bank and get access to my cash. But if you guys can imagine, right, like the last time I ever had a card decline was like 12 years ago. And so the fact that like 3 cards declined is just a really embarrassing situation to be in. But now you understand why, right? It's because, one, the card was expired. 2, I have the issue with bank in Ghana, and I still have to work that out. And it looks like it's going to be worked out, but it likely has to be with me there in person, of course, because that's the way things work in Ghana and with these banks here, is that you actually have to be there in person to be able to solve the issues that you have with these bank accounts. So of course, it is what it is, but lesson learned. Definitely was a lesson learned. And now I know what to do moving forward. So what I recommend you guys do, number one, is if you are opening a bank account here, make sure you get to know a branch manager or someone in a leadership position at one of these banks, so that you can communicate with them to get things going a little bit faster, or at least get some communication going with the head office where necessary. Number 2, make sure you have cash available. Make sure you have cash available. Like, you don't want to be in a position where you don't have cash and you're trying to use a card and the card doesn't work, and or the machine doesn't work, because there is not going to be any sympathy for you if the machine doesn't work. So make sure you have your cash. I learned a huge lesson with doing that. All right. So before we go further, and you guys can ask me any questions you want if you guys have any questions about anything I just mentioned. But Kali Kalv had some things that he was saying. So Kali Cow said, I might be moving to South Africa within the next year or so. Nice, nice. Let me know when you do. For sure. What part of South Africa? I want to say this right quick. We have a race war swiftly approaching us. Okay. So Kali Cow believes there's a race war coming. So he's saying get ready. He feels like there's a race war coming, so he's saying to get ready. Possibly, I don't know. I can't speak to that. Kali Calv always coming with the controversial thoughts, for sure. Always coming through with the controversial thoughts, and it's possible. I think right now the United States is going through an existential crisis, right? When it comes to race, when it comes to politics, when it comes to social justice or injustice, so many different things. There are so many different polarizing topics in the United States. And I think that causes a lot of people to feel that people are at war or that a war is coming. But my thought process is don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like, the United States was a great experience for me. I learned a lot and I gained a lot from living there. I made a significant amount of money. I met a lot of very interesting people, lifelong friends, a lot of great experiences and memories. But for me, when I'm thinking about building lifelong wealth and a legacy, it's not focused solely within the United States. I definitely am going to continue to buy real estate in the US and potentially have businesses that are focused there. But my main focus is going to be on the continent because that's where you have the highest potential for growth and less competition on the continent. And also, I know that I have an added bonus of being in Africa and caring about our people, which allows me to have a better impact on the people that I am investing in, whether that's time, energy, effort, or funds. So that is something that I think is really important to know. Like, just don't have all your eggs in one basket as it pertains to the United States, right? If you're thinking about investments, definitely invest in American companies. It makes sense. But maybe it also makes sense to start investing on the continent as well. All right, Disco Dan is in the building. What's up, Disco Dan? Okay, cool. Any questions, comments, any questions for me about anything we've talked about today or what it's like being here in Africa? Any questions? I know it's a little early for me to open it up to questions right now, but that's where we are. So Kali Calv says his main focus is investing on the continent. Great idea. That should be your focus. I definitely agree with that 100%. I have some investments. Don't get me wrong. I'm invested in Activision and Amazon and a bunch of other companies in the United States, Delta Airlines, a bunch of companies in the US, publicly traded companies. I had shares in Jumia before I ever started working at Jumia. So I have investments that I made in the US for sure, but and I will continue to invest in US-based companies, but that won't be the only thing I invest in. I definitely started investing on the continent as well. I haven't done much yet. I'm still, learning and getting an idea of what I want to invest in. It's been about a year so far, and I'm still working through figuring it out. There was a fish business that I mentioned here previously that haven't got a chance to meet with the owner of that business. He's had a lot of things going on with other things that he's working on and the fish business. So we haven't gotten a chance to meet up. And my mode of transportation is no longer in town. So it's really challenging for me to get around. But nonetheless, I'm focusing my time, energy, and effort in investing on the continent. And I think you should too. So Kali Calv has a question that he wants to ask. How many African countries are independent? I think the question that I have for you is, what is your definition of independent? Right? So if I knew that definition, because I would say that there aren't really many countries in Africa that are independent, right? There are a lot of countries on the continent that are dependent on foreign aid, for sure. Um, you know, like, I mean, it's definitely, we're definitely at a place right now where there's a lot of foreign aid coming in, but a lot of money going out. I'm going to show you guys something I think might be interesting for you all to see. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Now, this was this document here was I think it's from 2019, so the numbers are a bit outdated, but I think it illustrates the point of what we're talking about in terms of Africa's independence on the rest of the world. So let me just show you guys my screen really quickly. I think it might be interesting to see this, because I'm not sure people are really aware of this. So these are yearly numbers. So let me know if you guys can see my screen. So, okay, so the question Kali Kav is asking is economically independent. So every year, and this is as of 2019, $192 billion comes away from Africa. About 30 billion comes in overseas aid, right? So for those of you who are looking on, or who are on Instagram Live, you're not going to be able to see this. Sorry, it's only available for YouTube Live right now. But I'll walk you through the numbers. So 25.4 billion is in loans to other governments. 1.3 billion is in illegal fishing. 36.6 billion is as a result of climate change. 6 billion is in health worker migration and compensating for skills gaps. 35.3 billion is in tax evasion and other illicit financial flows facilitated through tax havens. 17 billion is in illegal logging, so cutting down the trees in the forests here. 3 billion goes to remittances. That actually should go back the other way, because remittance is money coming from outside the continent to Africa. So that's actually incorrect. That should go that arrow should go backwards the other way. So it's like 33 billion is actually coming into the continent. 46.3 billion in profits made by multinational companies, and 21 billion in debt payments, often following loans that are unpayable. So this is an estimate of the amount of money that leaves the continent yearly versus what comes in. Now, this doesn't cover what money is made in the continent, but this gives you an idea of what dependencies we have on the continent, right? So to answer your question, Kali Calv, I don't know if there's any one country that's really truly independent. There's always some form of foreign aid in many of the countries. I can't say for every single one, but it's definitely in the large majority. Now, I think that there are certain countries that have done a really good job of paying these loans back, and also beginning to work on their own infrastructure and exports and all those other kinds of things. But truly independent, there may be less than 10 of the 54, right? And I couldn't tell you even which ones they are, because in terms of what I've seen, most of what I've seen in my own personal experience has been some level of dependence on foreign governments or foreign institutions and businesses. So Kali Kav says, I thought so, because of, according to my knowledge, I see that Chinese and French are really going head to head over who's going to get the biggest piece of Africa. Yeah, I mean, well, look, okay, so you know that many of North African countries and Francophone West African countries, right, were French colonies at some point in time. So there's always been a lot of that, like that has not changed. I think when it comes to the French, they still have a very close ties to those countries that were former colonies. Whereas I think the UK, when they kind of separated, they, you know, the ties aren't as close. They tend to be sort of, but not in the same way. From what I see, the way the French ones are, depending on what, you know, what the outcome can be from them having those relationships. And then what you see is that the Chinese have done a really good job of offering loans to governments, whether that's through the Chinese Communist Party, the actual central government, or the businesses, the various businesses coming from China. And so what you have is that you have these companies having a big stake in what's going on the continent, either these countries or companies, because they're loaning money. I think a lot of times you can be beholden to people who loan you or give you money, right? You're going to make decisions, whether consciously or subconsciously, based on that, right? I mean, which is why when you think about the political system in the United States, one of the big issues I have with it is I think you should reduce the amount of funding that can go into political campaigns from like institutions or people a part of institutions, because all that does is that leads to people making decisions based on those people instead of making decisions based on what their constituents want. So hope that answers the question. Long answer to the question. But yeah, let me know if that answers it, Cali Cow. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. So Haji says, hi, what do you think about the debt burden? Countries accumulating, no disrespect to Ghana, their credit rating downgraded close to, wow. I mean, you can't say no disrespect and then say afterwards close to junk, right? I mean, you can't say a disrespectful thing after saying no disrespect. That's like, no offense, but yeah. We see what debt is doing in Lebanon and Sri Lanka. Yeah. So, but just to answer your question, yeah. Okay. So there's two ways to look at it, right? Advancement is really important. Right now we live in a capitalistic society globally where, you need to have infrastructure to be able to attract talent, and in order to catch up to the rest of the world. And a lot of times that requires a jump start. And if it's not coming from within the country, then sometimes it has to come from externally. Now, do I think that some of the loans that have been taken out could be counterintuitive for the long term? Maybe. But I had a conversation with someone who strongly believes that a lot of that debt will be written off, and people will be able to move forward without having to pay off that debt. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Only time will tell whether or not it was a bad thing. But you can't blame people for taking loans in order to build, or maybe not even taking loans, but basically going into debt to companies that are building things on your behalf in order to build that infrastructure so that you can attract more talent, so that you can get back to your rightful place on the world stage. And so that's what I'm seeing a lot of. I mean, I was completely against the loans before I came, just because, it was framed a certain way to me by American media, but after living here and seeing that sometimes it's just necessary, I have a little bit of a different viewpoint now. I don't know if I see it exactly the same way. I think, everything is nuanced. So yeah, so I think that that's the one thing I would say is, like, it's hard to say, right? Because it's, yeah. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Haji, but, I'm of two minds on it, right? Like, I think some of the debt can be, we can be incapable of paying some of it back, but I think some of it is actually necessary. So, only time will tell, though. We really can't know right now. David's letting me know that there's spam in the building. Yes, there is. That's a sign of the channel growing, is that once you start getting spam on YouTube. But listen, the good thing about it is, as long as we're getting engagement, that increases the overall viewership of the channel. More people are made aware that we are live, and so it's all helpful. So even if they spam, it's all good. It's not even real humans. You can tell these are bots, but it is what it is. All right. Also, is there a way to come up with a payment system? Yeah. So all of these loans do have a payment plan associated with them over 50 years or whatever. I just don't know if they'll actually be paid because it's going to require a lot of revenue to come in to make sense to pay the debt back. And so there's a lot of conversations around whether or not these debts will be paid. Yeah, so it's hard to say. I don't know. So Alfredson, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Can you rephrase it so we can address what you're talking about? Because I'm not sure I totally understand. But yeah, so yeah, that's my thought process on that. It's I'm of two minds. I haven't made my mind up yet on the concept of loans as of yet. I'm still trying to make my mind up on it. So it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. But that's a good point. Good questions, good thoughts. I appreciate you putting that out there. Any other questions, comments, thoughts from anybody else? Okay. So I think Elferson is just saying that the government's always been against the people. I think here's been my thought. I don't think people go into government to be evil. I think a lot of people go in with good ideas and good intent. And they do have there are a lot of people who go in for ego, but I think a lot of people go in for the right idea. It's just there are systems in place that have been in place for over 100 years, depending on where you are and what country you're in, that you can't always change that system. And there are also people in place that have been in place for a long time, and they don't want to see those things change. So what ends up happening is you get in these positions of power and you begin to govern. You begin to govern based on the system that was in place, not based on your constituents. And we see it all the time. People go in with good intent, and they never follow through on the things that they say that they're going to do. The same thing happens with on the continent. People have been complaining about that since I was a kid, and I'm sure long before then, as the feeling that the people they say that come in power don't end up doing the things that they say they're going to do. I think that has a lot to do with the systems that are in place. You might come into it with a good intent, but the systems that are in place are in such a way that you end up playing a part of the system and playing a role within the system instead of actually building the things that you said that you were going to build and doing the things you said you were going to do. Let me check one more question here. So David's comments were actually about a payment system in Sierra Leone to be cashless society. Excuse me. So yes, so there are POSs, so point of sale systems, right, where you can use your card to pay for it. The thing is, those are on the cell networks, and the networks can always be down. Not can always be down, but can go down from time to time. And so if that's the case, you're going to have a hard time becoming a cashless society. So that's one of the challenges that you see here is becoming a cashless society because of that issue of using the POS systems. They go down, and people will have 2 or 3 different ones from different companies, and none of them work, which is what happened to me one time, and I didn't have cash on me, and then another time it happened when the card wasn't working, but I thought it was the POS system. So anyway, that happens a lot. So I think we just need to build more infrastructure. There's a company that I've been talking to actually that's trying to build something like that So maybe at some point in time it'll happen, but I think it just requires entrepreneurs to build those systems and get it out into the general public and these businesses, and then more people will start using them. A lot of people do pay with mobile money though here. So Haji's asking, how is the business climate in Sierra Leone at present? I mean, I think like any other country, right? They're still dealing with some of the after effects of the global pandemic and how it's been making it challenging for people all over the world. So that hasn't changed. So that's still an issue. But there are businesses here that are thriving, right? There are restaurants, there are hotels, there are construction businesses, people who are getting, deals with the government. Those seem to be working well. So there are businesses that are doing really well here. I met a guy the other day who has a waste management system. Apparently that's going really well for him. So yeah, I mean, there are some businesses that are doing really well. But I mean, of course, there are much smaller businesses that are struggling to get by. The local fish, salespeople and the local market people. They're struggling as well. I mean, your business is only going to be as good as the size of your market that you're in. For instance, Sierra Leone has about between 10 and 13 million people. For context, for the entire country, right? So of course, and the average person makes about between $50 and $70 a month. So if you know that that's the average income of the person here, and that's the total size of the market, no matter what business you have, you have a maximum size that you can get to in terms of your business. And so, that's why a lot of these hotels cater to the diasporans and things like that, so that those folks, when they come to town, they patronize those businesses. But yeah, so it's always going to be a factor of, the location you're in and the total amount of people in your region. Like for instance, so I just said, Sierra Leone is between 10 and 13 million people in the country. Lagos, Nigeria, just Lagos, has 25 million people. Right. So that just gives you an idea, so businesses in Lagos the same business in Lagos that you have in Sierra Leone has the potential to have 1.5 times more customers than here. So, I mean, I think it depends on what sector you're in, and it depends on who you are, who is your target market. That determines how the business climate is. I hope that helps. David McCrae is saying, is it due to lack of internet? Yeah, I mean, internet connectivity is challenging. They're working on different fiber cables from Europe and different places to come around to different parts of the continent. It's just an infrastructure thing, right? You think about, like, I was in Vermont during the 2020, right, for 3 months. And it was difficult for phone service. It was difficult for internet. I kept having internet timeouts, having issues with the internet there. And that's because there wasn't a great internet infrastructure in all of the different suburban towns throughout that state, right? And so you can imagine that same thing is happening on the continent as well, right? So with that makes challenges for other things, like in terms of the number of people on the internet, in terms of what content they consume on the internet, right? All of those things are going to be impacted by internet connectivity, right? So Callie Calv is saying, speaking of millions of Africans worldwide, we need to understand that the U.S. government. Okay. Callie Calv always coming through with the more controversial stuff. Callie Calv, like, according to Callie Calv, he feels that the U.S. government is trying to depopulate millions. Listen, I know that there are a lot of people who say that online for sure. I am not going to speculate on that at all. I would just say you don't have to worry about that as long as you focus on yourself, build yourself, and build a financial future for yourself and your family. That's what I always say. Who knows what people are trying to do? What I do know is that it can impact you, if you build and invest in your future, and you're looking to make sure that you don't have your eggs in one basket, which is just the US. So regardless of what is happening in the world around you, you know, I truly believe that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to that. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Some people, and it can be horrendous, but some people live in those bad moments, those traumatic experiences, and they allow that to define who they are for the rest of their lives. Whereas there are other people who, when something like that happens, they use that as fuel and motivation to propel themselves forward, right? So I really do believe that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And so I think it's up to us to do what we can to build for our own selves and not rely on governments and rely on other people, because people are inherently disappointing. And it's just not, it's not up to a government to make sure that you get to where you want to go. It's up to you. And so I think that we just need to be, and the challenge that I see here is that, and it happens a lot in the United States. And like I mentioned to you guys before, I'm a liberal, right? I'm a liberal guy. I'm one of those people. I believe that there should be welfare systems. I believe that there should be affordable health care, but I also don't believe that the government should be taking care of you, right? Unless you are unable to take care of yourself, that is what a government's there for. But if you can speak, you can walk, you can talk, you can, if you're able-bodied, you need to be able to build for yourself. And you have information is at your fingertips to learn. And so, all right, I'm going to get off my high horse. But yeah, on that note, just regardless of what's happening in the world around you, it's up to you to propel yourself forward and figure out a way for yourself, for sure. Shout out to Jordan. Jordan's on. My guy, Jordan. Yeah, cool. Any other questions, comments? This has been good. No Narrative says that's a fact. Hey, No Narrative, what's up? What's up? She also says the victim mindset is so prevalent. We have to make it happen for yourself. 100%. Yeah. I definitely have been a person who's been on welfare, not welfare, but I've been on food stamps and unemployment before, and when I was on food stamps, it was hard for me to be there. I had to be because of the financial crisis, right? And so that kind of safety net, social safety nets, I think are necessary, but they shouldn't be permanent, right? It should be a temporary solution to a temporary problem, and it should be there when necessary, but you shouldn't be on it for life, and you shouldn't be on it generationally, right? Ideally, if your parents are on it, you shouldn't be on it, and your children shouldn't be on it, right? And that's, I think, the problem we have in the United States and in other systems is they don't show people how to get off of those systems, or at least incentivize them to get off those systems, right? So Miss Shonda says, great advice. Thank you. Okay, so somebody wanted to go live with me. Who was that? Let me see who that was. Oh, they decided they don't want to go live. Okay. But yeah. So, like I said, I think I believe in a social safety net. I just don't believe that you should be dependent on someone else, right? Not in today's day and age. There's too much access to information. And so I think you should use that access. And, I think a lot of people rather complain than do what's necessary to move forward. So that's my thought process. All right, cool. Any other questions, comment, concerns about anything we've talked about today, or anything else you want to know about? Any questions? I'm going to give a little bit more time for questions. We've only been going 49 minutes. So let me know if you guys have any other questions, any thoughts about anything we talked about so far. I am just checking my phone to see if I got any messages from anybody. Can you guys still hear me too, by the way? You guys can all hear me well? Let me know. Thumbs up. All right, there's some new people. There are some new people on. So let me know where you guys are in from. If you haven't told me before, Let me know where you guys are watching this from. What city, what state you're in, what country you're in. If you're not in the U.S., let me know. I want to hear from you guys. Where are you? Jeez, my phone is going crazy. Yeah, where you guys calling in from? Where you guys calling in from? Where you guys watching from? Okay. So this is an interesting thing from Kali Calv. He said, and speaking of affecting and reacting, in my opinion, if racism affects one person, it affects the entire race because racism is a system and a system means more than one person. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think an injustice anywhere is a threat to to injustice everywhere, right? Which is a Martin Luther King quote. I hope I didn't butcher it. But I think that that's true, right? And so I think that any oppression and any racism and any of that is a problem that we should all be looking to solve. But until we have solutions, we should be doing for ourselves, right? So, be the change in the world that you want to see. I don't know whose quote that was, but I'm definitely living by that. Because there's a lot of things about the world that I don't like, and if I can't fix it, I'm going to do whatever I can to do what I can to make changes in my life and the lives of the people around me. Lavina says hello. What's up, Lavina? Shout out to you. There are some places to study in Ghana. I'm from Brazil and I live in Samanya now. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to see Samanya. Oh, okay. Samanya, Ghana is where some people are from. Amsterdam, Netherlands. Shout out to Amsterdam. I've never been to Amsterdam. I mean, obviously, for obvious reasons, as you guys know, I'm a huge cannabis advocate. But I still have never been to Amsterdam. It's on the list, but right now my focus is on the continent. So Europe is pretty low on the list, but yeah, definitely somewhere to go. Oh, so I realized that this "Be the change you want to see in the world" is a Gandhi quote. Ooh, I learned some things recently about Gandhi though. It's one of my favorite quotes though, but I've heard some things about that guy. He didn't have very many nice things to say about Africa and Africans. You guys should look it up if you want to know what he has said previously. Okay, we got Houston, Texas in the house, even though you're from Cleveland, Ohio. Shout out to Houston. A good friend of mine who lives here now grew up in Houston. I have a sister in Houston right now. So shout out to Houston. There's a question about growing hemp. Great question. Technically, it can be grown as far as I understand. I am not a farmer by any means. So, but I know there's plenty of farmland here, and I'm sure it could be grown well. It's just a matter of people deciding that they need it. Like if there's a demand for it. Right now, there's a demand for like wood and logging. That's really what there's a demand for coming out of Sierra Leone. So unfortunately, that's one of the major exports or use cases for timber here. So unfortunately, hemp I don't think has. I mean, it's great for paper, but not necessarily for building materials and things like that because the way the plant grows doesn't grow like a big tree. So it's definitely opportunity for it here, but I just don't know what the demand for it is, unfortunately. Callie Calvin's in Atlanta. Shout out to Atlanta. My homegirl just moved to Atlanta from LA. She loves it there. So and one of my boys too. So a guy I went to college with, he lives out there now too. So yeah, a lot of people love that town. What else do we got? Okay, Dope Soul is from Philly. I gotta tell you, Dope Soul, I got a story about Philly. Man, I got a story about Philly. I got a good friend that's from Philly, but I had bad experience in Philly. I had a really bad experience in Philly one time. That's a conversation for another time. But shout out to you. calling in from Philly. One of my sister's best friends is from Philly too. So shout out to Philly. All right, cool. Anything else? Now we're at 55 minutes. This might be a short one, guys. We might end under an hour. You know, these things usually go an hour, 30 minutes, hour, 40 minutes. You know, this thing might end up ending a little earlier than usual. You guys let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about, any questions you have for me. Okay, here we go. No Narrative has one. What phones do you find to be best used in Africa, Sierra Leone, Ghana? Android, iPhone, Chinese brand? Okay, great question. Great question. So Samsungs are pretty prevalent here. I have now become an Android user since being here. So I use an A11. This was like the cheaper phone that I bought. These are like $100 phones. And I also have an A12 because I had originally lost my A11, and so I had to go buy an A12. The camera's actually pretty good on this A12. It's almost as good as like a Samsung. Like when I record on here, I can do the extra zoom and all that kind of stuff. Pretty good pictures it takes. But it all depends on what you need the phones for, right? So like for me, I also have a Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy, whatever it is. I can't remember what it is, 11 or 10. So I do have that. That's what I do my YouTube videos on and my Instagram lives on. So a lot of people have Androids here. The majority of the use cases here are Androids, but there are people with Apple phones. You know, because no matter where you are in the world, Apple is a status symbol, right? So, you know, there's a lot of phone envy, and people do spend all their money on iPhones. I mean, I had an argument with a very close friend of mine who's Sierra Leonean, and her and I, she disregarded everything I said. She's going to buy the 13, even though there are many other things that money can be spent on. She is hell-bent on buying the 13. Had a whole nother conversation with somebody else on that too. I'm like, you know, so I met a girl who has her father's house, 5-bedroom house. She takes up one of the bedrooms, 5-bedroom house. I'm like, you could take that $1,300. You can paint the walls, upgrade some of the plumbing, put some furniture in a room, and you can Airbnb that room to generate extra income to be able to buy 5 iPhone 13s. Not of that mindset. She wants the iPhone 13. And so when she gets however much money it is, she's just going to get it and buy the iPhone 13. So to answer your question, all phones are available here, but Androids are easier to fix. And Samsungs are most prevalent, so people fix Samsungs a little easier. So there you go. I always hear people go from iPhone to another phone because it's easier to fix. And well, the mobile minutes, adding mobile minutes and data is not the issue on an iPhone, because that can be done. That's based on the carrier, not the phone itself. So that's not the issue. It really is getting it fixed. Like I have a dead iPhone. And there are no Apple stores, at least in Sierra Leone or in Ghana. There are authorized Apple resellers in Ghana, but they're limited in what they can do with fixing phones. Now, if you ask anybody else in Ghana, they'll tell you that there are people who can fix iPhones. The only issue is if a third party fixes an iPhone and then something else happens to it and a third party can't fix it and you're trying to take it to Apple, Apple will not touch your phone as soon as you let a third party that's unauthorized open up that phone. So that's the one thing that I would recommend not buying an iPhone here, because once it's done and you can't get it fixed. So, you know, for me, I've been using a lot of Androids. It's just cheaper and easier, and it does what I need them to do. So it all depends on what you're looking for and what you need. But for me, it's been working for me. Okay. So Natalie is asking, Natiel. I think it's Natiel. My apologies. How is mental health in Ghana? That's a good question. I mean, I think in general, and this is only based on my experience from what I've seen, in general, I think it's not seen in the same ways as maybe some people have been working on it in the West, right? I think that and there's goods and bads in the West, right? You can take mental health days off of work in the West. Um, I don't know if every company here institutes a mental health day policy in West Africa, at least in Ghana, or from what I've seen in Sierra Leone. Um, therapy has become something that I think people have become a little bit more accustomed to going to, and it's been helpful in a lot of people's lives. Now, there are some people that'll say, therapy is just another way for people to extract money out of you so that you can go sit down on their couch every week or every 2 weeks in perpetuity. And so there may be some truth to that. But in terms of where we are here, I think that there are definitely it's still new and evolving. It's definitely not at a place where everyone sees it as something that you should do. Like and sometimes mental health can be seen as like witch or like voodoo and things like that. A lot of people feel a lot of times here from my discussions, there's a lot of people who feel like some of the traditional, what we call in Sierra Leone, bad hat, is some of that. So you get a little bit of that too. So, I mean, I think it's all relative, right? I think it depends on the people you're dealing with, but it's still something that still needs some more time to get to a place where I think we have an overall, let's say like the population as a whole is on the same page about how to deal with mental health, as we did in the United States, right? It still needs a lot of work to do in the United States as well. Let's see, what else do we got? Good question. So what was your question, Cali Cal? If you're saying anybody, okay, Cali Cal says, I have one last question. Who in here believes in studying African American armed revolution? Oh man, you always, and I should read your questions before I read them out loud. So I think that these are things that I have to be very careful with talking about these things because my channel can get demonetized permanently for these kinds of things. So Cali Calv, I definitely think that like at some point in time when I have a Patreon, these are the kinds of topics that we can talk about. But we can't really talk about those kinds of things on YouTube or Instagram Live because that leads to demonetization or shadow banning of accounts. And although I think it's an interesting topic, definitely not something we can talk about here. So I appreciate you wanting to bring it up, but I think we should probably skip that topic. Just keep in mind, Cali Calv, that like we have to stick to topics that we don't want Instagram or YouTube to shadow ban or demonetize the channels for. So I'm all for a healthy discussion about the way the world treats Black people and where we are in this world and what we need to do to fix these things and what we need to do to get to a place where we're autonomous and not needing outside aid. But I also think that we should be very careful when we start talking about militarizing and things like that, because that stuff does get you shadow banned. And so it may not be something that Instagram might outwardly say you violated policies, but I won't be talking about that on the platform for sure. Feel free to talk about it in the comments, but I definitely won't be talking about that on this platform. Maybe on a Patreon, like I said, but just not here. Only because the platforms are not okay with it. Okay, so back to some of the Instagram Live comments. So Disco Dan, of course, is a big cannabis advocate, so he was excited to hear that people were calling in from Amsterdam or who are watching from Amsterdam. Can I get cheaper accommodations in Ghana? You can. There are some more inexpensive accommodations in Ghana, but for the most part, you won't see much. You won't see much less than 15. Sorry, much less than $30 a day in Ghana. Um, if if it's going to be less than that, it's probably not going to be accommodations that you want to stay in a lot of cases. So you just have to be careful with that. So, but you can find accommodations for $30 or less. You just have to be very careful, and you need to vet it out first, which is challenging. So always have a backup just in case. Always have a backup just in case you get to a place and you're like, I cannot stay here. Then maybe you have somewhere else to go. David has a great question. How do you manage to avoid the diaspora drama we usually see on YouTube? Can you tell me a little bit more about this diaspora drama you're specifically speaking of? How do I manage to avoid it? So I will say this, for the most part, the way I approach my communication is always in a way that is about coming up with solutions and finding ways to improve things together, right? So I don't just complain about things that I don't like happening in Sierra Leone or Ghana, right? I give people solutions for those things. So if that happens to them, they know what to do, or solutions that I think we should do as a country and as a people to get around these specific challenges. I think that that's probably one way. But David, if you have some things that you in particular that you're talking about, please mention it so that I can know, I can address it directly. But for me, I mean, I also live like a drama-free life. I'm just not into like being like in drama, you know what I'm saying? So for me, the way I do things is always based on how do we get the most out of a situation and help everyone improve whatever it is that we're dealing with. So Africa is the best place to live. I definitely think so. For me, it is. Definitely for me. Maybe not for everyone, but for me, it is for sure. But David had a great question. I want to hear more about what you're saying, because I want to address something specific. If there's something, without naming names or whatever, if there's something in particular that you're talking about and situations that you're talking about, let me know so I can tell you how I avoid those specific situations. But overall, I mean, that's how I avoid it. I try not to offend. I learned a long time ago that Ghanaians can be really offended by the way people talk about their country. And so I've always tried to be as respectful as possible when I talk about what's happening in Ghana and any things that I may disagree with, or I leave it up to the group to talk about it. I've seen people who can really be degrading and really be negative when they talk about things that are happening in Ghana. So I definitely try not to do that. So maybe that's it. Okay, so David's saying he'd rather not mention because he's staying drama free himself. Okay, so there must be some specific situation I have no idea about. Okay, but Disco Dan says maybe David is referring to allegations that diasporans are mistreating locals. I don't know about this, but it's possible. It's definitely possible. I mean, anything's possible, right? What I can say is this. Maybe diasporans could be doing that. I do know for sure that people learn from other people. A lot of behaviors are learned behaviors. And what I have seen is that there are other expats living in the country who own businesses that mistreat locals. And if they make friends with diasporans and diasporans think that that's how they should treat staff, then that's how you start to see that. But I've seen a lot of expats, who are impatient, especially Europeans. Whew, man, I've seen some Europeans in restaurants lose their shit when talking to staff. And I'm like, calm down, man, calm down. We're in a tropical place. People move slower. People move at their own speed, do things their own way. You're just going to have to get used to it. You're in somebody else's country. You're going to have to adapt. It's just how it is. But yeah, I've definitely seen people lose their shit for sure on staff in restaurants. Not really diasporans though. Most of the time, I've seen it with expats. But I've seen 2 instances where a diasporan has gone off on staff unnecessarily, for sure. So it does happen. Maybe that's it. What else do we got? Okay. So Lavina is asking, how long will I stay in Africa? This is my home for life. I'm a dual citizen of Sierra Leone. So as long as I'm a dual citizen of Sierra Leone, I can move around West Africa freely. I can move around the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS. That's about 22 partner countries. So, I plan to explore more and to live here. I'm also a U.S. citizen, right? So I always will have a place in the U.S. and will be going back and forth to the U.S. But my home, at least as far as I can see, will be here on the continent. We'll see if that changes in the future, but I don't see that changing at all in the foreseeable future. But I never say never. No Narrative says, I notice most diasporans are either thriving or destitute. It's really concerning. Doesn't seem to be any middle ground. The desperation is really concerning. Yeah, so this is a good point. So here are the things that you got to know about. And it's kind of like when Africans go to the United States, right? Or immigrants come to the United States. Some do really well and some are really poor, right? I have an aunt that's been in the project since the 1980s. And then I had other family members who have done really well, bought a bunch of property, started their own businesses, and are back and forth between the United States and Sierra Leone. So I definitely think that you're going to have a difference in where people go, but it also depends on where you are in your life when you move to Africa, right? What do you already have going? So the folks from Ghana Bound, for instance, right? They already had a thriving business with gyms and personal trainers and all that stuff in London. And when they moved here, they kept that business going with a proxy there locally, and they can start exploring and doing other things here and living a cheaper lifestyle here, right? So they're thriving and doing really well for themselves, right? The folks from Destination Africa, they have a business that they run. They also have family and systems and things set up. So they're doing really well for themselves. I myself personally decided to take a pay cut when I came here, when I was going to be working here, because I knew for the long term, having this experience working for a local company was really going to allow me to be able to be more of an impact on companies that I advise in the future. So, I'm not destitute and I'm not living in desperation, but I definitely am not making what I was making back in 2019 when I was working at Hulu, right, in the United States, right? Far from that. But, I decided to make that. I decided to make that choice knowing that it was a long-term plan in sight. But I came here with a plan, right? Eventually to get to a place where, I'm back at the position where I expected to be, right? And so, but a lot of people just come here on a whim. They watch a few YouTube videos and they're like, great, I want to go to Ghana, right? But don't really have a plan for generating income and aren't already generating income. If you don't already have a marketable skill set that that people are going to hire you for when you come here, or you don't already have an income before you come here, then I wouldn't recommend you come here. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have is they fall in love with the idea of being here, right? Maybe they came for the year of return. They see a few videos like my video and a few other people, and they say, okay, yeah, I'm just going to move to Ghana. And they move to Ghana without having any plan. You do that, and you might end up destitute or in a situation where you are living in desperation. So I definitely recommend that if you're going to come to anywhere in West Africa or any new city or country, that you have a plan for generating income. Disco Dan saying there's a particular family suffering in Gambia. Yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens. I think you have to be more careful with how you decide to move to a new country, for sure. You want to make sure that when you do, you move there with a plan and or with an income stream, for sure. So yeah, that's my recommendation. So I moved here without an income stream, full disclosure. But I also had a marketable skill set that I knew that I could potentially have one within months. And within 3 months, I had a job. But I also was able to move here with a consulting business. Whether I had a job or not, I would have still been able to live off of that being in Ghana. What's up, CC? Chazine is in the building. She absolutely agrees. She is actually in Barbados right now, living the dream in Barbados. It's dope that we're both in Black countries we were just talking about the other day. So yeah, but yeah, I 100% think that you need to have an income stream or at least a marketable skill set that you know will allow you to get an income stream quickly. Like for instance, for me, right? In the US, there are at least 15 roles that I've looked at that I'm more than qualified for, and I could probably get at least 6 of them, right? I could say maybe more, but I don't want to sound like arrogant or anything. But like there are at least 15 roles that I've seen in the US that I know I can get 6 of them because there's a specific skill set that I have that would allow me to be able to get those roles. And that's why I also chose Ghana over Sierra Leone. If I moved to Sierra Leone, I would not have had a job or not a job that I would have been able to use my previous skill set. I would have had to probably come in a role that would not have necessarily been the perfect role for my background and for what I wanted to do. Because there aren't a lot of companies in Sierra Leone that focus on digital advertising and monetizing of digital assets. But I knew if I went to Ghana, there are companies that do that and focus on that because one of the companies I was advising was working with a number of them. And so it just so happened that when I got here, one of the major companies, which is Jumia, needed a head of advertising. And so then I was able to get a job within 3 months. Disco Dan has a great question. Do you feel somewhat obligated to check a diasporan or European that you witness mistreat a local? Yeah. So how I do it though is mostly just like is more asking them if they thought that was really useful or helpful. Like, what do you think that's achieving the end result that you really want? How is that helping? I think the better thing to do is to talk through how they can do things differently and you can help them. Yelling at someone just embarrasses them and doesn't necessarily get the desired action for future reference, right? You can talk through what you can do to help that person. So I've had that conversation with one person. With another person, somebody else stepped in and had a similar conversation with them. I've only seen it on 2 occasions, but when I did see it, somebody, if not myself, did say something. So Lavina says, I prefer to stay 6 months in the EU, another 6 months in Africa in my house. Yeah, I mean, some people do that. I have a cousin who lives in London. He comes here. That's what he does, basically. He alternates months, so he's here for 3 months. He's there for 3 months. I mean, it all depends on who you are and what it is you're looking to do and where you are in your career, right? Like I don't have the luxury of being able to spend 6 months in anywhere else except for maybe West Africa because my job is based in Ghana and I do need to meet with clients in person. I've already been gone a little over a month and I feel like I've been missing a lot of important meetings in person. I've had to do them all over Zoom or Google Chats. And so from the role that I have and the job that I have, it does require me to be here in person. All right, cool. Lots of good discussions today. Went in many different directions I wasn't expecting to go in. So thanks, guys, for the topics today. Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas, all of the above? Let me know. Let me know if there are any more coming out of this group. We're at 1 hour and 18 minutes. So at about 49 minutes, I thought we were going to end early. And as usual, we are over 1 hour and 15 minutes. So Blossom Love says, I think I'm ready to move to Jamaica. It's so peaceful there. Everyone is happy with what they have. Yeah, just make sure when you make that move, as we mentioned before, you have a way of making an income, right? Because you definitely don't want to be in a position where you don't. But it looks like you have some things going on. So I'm just looking at your profile there really quickly. So yeah. I mean, I think, you'll love it. I think there are certain things that you'll have to get used to, right? In tropical environments. I've been to Jamaica once. I've only been to Jamaica once, huh? I've been in the grill, and it reminds me a lot of Ghana for sure. People are very chill, very, very chill. And so that can be really cool for vacation. But when it comes to everyday life, like if you need a plumber to come today and they don't come for 2 days, that's something you might have to get used to. Right. Or, you know, you're getting some other work done at your house and you expect that person to be there by noon and they show up at like 4 p.m. or they don't show up to the next day. Right. Like, you know, that's what you're going to have to get used to in places that are really chill and relaxed, like Jamaica or like Ghana. Right. Service workers are going to be more relaxed. So it's really cool when you're there on vacation. The challenge you have is when you're there full time and you know you're used to a certain way that things work or access to other options, right? Like for me in the US, right? If something wasn't done right, I could get on TaskRabbit or one of these other sites and just order someone else off of this app to come do the thing that the last person didn't do. You don't always have those backup options here, and so when you don't have those, it can become a little bit challenging. So you just have to work on patience. You know, if you're a patient person, then good. I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, I mean, it does lead to some challenges. But yeah, I mean, people tend to be happier with what they have, especially when they don't know a lot about what potentially other people have. They don't have anything to compare themselves to, because a lot of people compare their worst to other people's best, and that's what leads them to not be happy with what they have. Um, and you know, we by nature we do comparisons, right? I mean, it happens all the time. It happens in music, it happens in sports, it happens in politics, right? People are always saying this versus that, and so you're going to do it inherently. You're going to do it for yourself versus other people. But yeah, I mean, I saw some kids kicking around. I think it was a shirt. It was like a balled up shirt, as if it was like a soccer ball, and they were having the time of their lives on like a really like small street in one of the like shanty towns that I saw here. And I saw them. I should have got it on camera. I didn't get it on camera, but they were having so much fun. And they weren't thinking about like, well, they're not gonna not go out and play because they don't have a soccer ball from Wilson or whatever the company is that makes soccer balls. I'm not sure if Wilson is it, but you know what I mean? I think that's a really cool thing to see. But yeah, if you're deciding to make the move to Jamaica, just make sure you have some things in place before you go so that you know you really love the move and that you're not in need of anything once you get there. Cool. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, ideas? If not, I think what we'll do is we'll leave like time for like one or two more questions before we go. Oh, you know what? Disco Dan, you asked me a question about live last week, and I didn't get a chance to answer your question before we cut off. You were asking me if okay, Blossom Love said that's it for her. Cool. Or if that's it for them. Sorry, I should say. So Disco Dan was asking if being live on Instagram equals more engagement, more time on your page, all of that kind of stuff, more engagement, more hours. Yes. So for those of you who are interested in the business of YouTube at all, we'll make it quick. Is you know, if you oh, thanks, Cece. Thanks, Chazine. So if you are a person who is, you know, trying to build a YouTube channel, going live has a number of different benefits. The first is that YouTube alerts a number of different people that you're live, just like Instagram does. Why does that matter? It matters because there's so many people uploading content to YouTube all the time. YouTube isn't always proactively alerting people unless you already have a following, right? And so if you go YouTube live, YouTube does alert people that you're going live, and it allows for a conversation back and forth between people. And so you can have content that lasts over an hour and a half. Why does that matter? Because if people watch your content for 25 minutes, you're going to get more people watching your content for 25 minutes when you do an hour-long video than you will get people watching a 25-minute video when you put it out, because people tend to watch 15 to 20% of your video, maybe less than that. And so if you have an hour and 30-minute video, then people might watch 20 minutes of it on the replay, especially if it's conversational and there's a lot of good conversations like this one, for instance, and it gets people staying on and wanting to hear more. And so, you know, that to me, I think is a really big benefit. And also with YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time for anybody, for YouTube to allow you to be a part of the partner program, for them to pay you. And so by doing lives, that's what got me over the threshold to be a part of the partner program. I did a live that had 3,000 views. And that live got me like over almost 1,000 hours of watch time that got me into the partner program. And that got me into the partner program within 5 months. Was I in the partner program? 5 months of being on YouTube, I was in the partner program. And I have two friends, one friend that took 2 years and another friend, I think she's been on YouTube for 3 years and she hasn't hit in the partner program yet. And one thing I did differently from them was I was doing YouTube lives every week. So yeah, but it's also great to be able to have conversations with you guys, you know, to hear from you, hear your thoughts, your ideas, your questions, and to be able to share my thoughts, ideas, and questions back with the group. So I really do like to have you guys on. I think we lost Cali Calv. I hope he didn't feel like his questions. Yeah. Anyway. All right, cool. Anything else before we go? Anything else? No? All right, I'm gonna leave it open for one more question, whether that's on Instagram Live or YouTube Live before we go. And if I don't get one in the next 10 seconds, then we can end this now, if you guys are cool with it. Good night, Blossom Love. Appreciate you stopping by. All right, looks like there are no more questions. You know, every time I go to close out of this, though, there's like always like one more question at the last second. So I'm gonna give you guys a little bit more time and see if there's any more questions. And if there are, then great. If not, we will close this out. All right, guys. So one thing I'll remind you of is, No Narrative says, always informative. I learn so much every Monday. Thanks, Joe. I'll be looking for the merch soon. Well, thank you. And yes, the merch is coming soon. I'm going to be switching over. I have 5 hours left of time to stream through this platform. So I'm going to do this one this week, next week, I think, and maybe one more week on this platform. Then I'm going to move to the new platform where I can sell merch. You can buy it directly from the live stream. You can buy it directly from my merch store. It'll deliver anywhere in the US, and I'm still looking to see if it delivers internationally as well outside the US. But I'll keep you guys all posted on that. But I'm glad you guys learned a lot. I'm glad this was helpful. I'm glad that we had a good conversation. This is good. Indomitable Empress. I like the name, Indomitable Empress. It's been a very insightful. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you saying so. All right, guys. So look, if you find this content informational and instructive, and you feel like other people who are planning to move to the continent will find it helpful, make sure you forward it on to them. Send it to people on WhatsApp. Send it to people through text message. Send these lives and this channel to different people so that anyone who's planning to move here, visit, build a house, whatever, I think all this content will be really helpful for them. So make sure you send it to them. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and hit all on the notification bell so that every single piece of content that comes out, you're notified about. Okay. I always say this. Every time I'm saying goodbye, my last goodbyes, there's always one more question that comes up. All right. So one more question, Disco Dan, and then I think then we're going to end up with here. So Disco Dan is asking how I deal with bribing. So it all depends on the circumstance and whether or not it's necessary. My situation and my thought process is a little different from everyone else's. It depends on who you are and where you at. It depends on how it's done and who does it. So in some cases, some people do it without doing it. They kind of just do like the, yes, sir, happy, like happy to see you, come up and kind of stand by your door at it. Like if somebody opens the gate for you out of the gate, like the gate where I'm staying now. If we drive out and somebody opens the gate, they kind of just stand there and like smile and hope that you give them like something for opening the gate. If it's somewhere where it's like a government job and this is just their job, I do mention it to them like, come on, you like, why would you're just doing your job. For what here are you asking me for something? Now, in some cases, like, look, I wanted to get my passport in 2 days over the holidays in 2018 or 2019. I can't even remember now. The holidays in 2018. And I was told it can't be done in less than 2 weeks. It's going to take 2 weeks to get your passport. They didn't do anything illegal. It was the whole process. But I paid extra money to one person. He knew who to give a little bit of money to, and he fast-tracked it. It was done in 2 days during the holidays. So it depends on what it is, right? Sometimes it's done for expediency and it actually is helpful. Sometimes it's people who are asking for it when it's not necessary. So I'll mention it to you if it's not necessary and you say something to me and I'm like, why? So I don't always want to embarrass people, so I won't say it like out loud to everyone, but I definitely have mentioned it to people. So yeah, I don't like it. So yeah. So David is asking what platform I found to use as my streaming platform. So I'm going to be using Streamlabs. Streamlabs is what I'm going to be using. I think, David, you were the one who recommended it, I think, or someone on one of the lives recommended it. Unfortunately, you still can't do Instagram Live through that. So I'm still going to do Instagram Live separately on my phone, as I have been doing. And then I'll do Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and potentially LinkedIn on Streamlabs. Streamlabs. So that's what I'm going to be moving to as my platform. And that way I can sell merch through Streamlabs. You guys can support the channel through Streamlabs, especially right now because my YouTube channel is not currently being monetized because of the issue I had that I mentioned with you guys in December or November. So that'll be another way that you guys can support the channel. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, guys, for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, the replay will be up almost immediately. Go ahead and hit me on the replay with your questions, and I'll answer them in the comments on the replay. All right, guys. No Narrative says she thinks I'll do really well on LinkedIn. They're going into short form. Great. Mariama just joined. Shout out to Mariama. I'm about to call it a night, Mariama, but thanks for joining. Mariama is the person who I did the 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Sierra Leone. And the 10 more things people found really helpful. So check her channel out. Her channel is Mariama Forbes, as you see her name there on the screen. Forbes, like the magazine. Okay, cool. Jose Cruz, you missed it. It's all good. I'm out. But like, you can watch the replay though and put your comments in the replay. I'm more than happy to answer it. All right, guys, with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.